Chapter 23. First Day of Class. Kara. Orientation passes without the flair of the initial procession. The dean speaks to us briefly about what an amazing opportunity we have here at this school and how much we need to seize the bright path before us. The other figures introduce themselves with shorter speeches, relating to their departments instead of just telling us to make smart choices. It's a bit over an hour before whatever spell holds the auditorium in dim light is lifted, and we're allowed to actually start our day. And it's going to be a long one. Most of these classes will only happen a few days of the week, but today all of them are meeting with shorter time blocks, perfect for meet and greets, but not for much else. In any case, I'm glad I'll get to meet all my professors at once. Evocations is a second-floor general studies class, and Epis is a rather eccentric character, seemingly as eccentric as his classroom. He's dressed in so many bright colors it's honestly hard to look at him. He has paper sutras and a thick stacked spiral of spell beads coiled around his waist like a sash. There are wide stretches of tapestries from all over the world on the wall of the classroom, depicting all manner of demons, gods, and wars. Floating crystals shed light all over the room. Glass incense holders in the shape of animals run around and spread the smoke as far as they can go. One dark cerulean spun glass horse is very interested in Blue, seemingly stuck in a rote walking program right around Blue's knees. He doesn't reach out and grab it, but he is following it quite intently with his eyes. The incense makes my eyes hurt, but I'm glad he's at least occupied. I've been worried about how long class days would be. Not every class needs a familiar in the workplace, but Blue still needs to stay with me. I should grab him some books. Maybe he'd like a journal, something to occupy himself when I need to keep my focus elsewhere. Something better than an enchanted piece of glass. It's making him sneeze. Not everyone has a familiar in this class, but given all the practical exams scheduled, this is a fairly writing-intensive class, so that makes sense. This is not a class exclusively for the 5-year Magister program. Even though this class is in as much of a lecture hall as the campus has, I can feel people watching. For some reason, people are starting to stare at me. It feels like I'm the only one continuing to jot down notes while our teacher rambles. My skin feels itchy and tight, but I just focus on keeping my posture good and my writing steady. I knew I wouldn't quite fit in here, but I didn't think it would be a problem so soon. I'm fresh meat. Someone that these people haven't gossiped to death and back since childhood. I'm shiny. A bell blares its simple chime all throughout the school grounds. I don't remember seeing a clock tower, but this place is so riddled with stars-forsaken magic, it might just be a spell. For a moment, I'm confused. Classes have specific timed schedules. Except for today. Today, all classes are happening at once. Multiple sections have to meet at different times. They're probably using the bells to keep us all on track. We haven't made it through half of Epis's syllabus, and given the opportunity, he'd talk for another year. The others are gathering up their stuff, taking the time to group up and talk. A cold sweat breaks out on the back of my neck. I'm not ready for that. I'm out the door, nearly dragging Blue in my haste. Master? Is something wrong? I barely hear my excuse. Something about being late to our next class, over the buzzing in my head. All my faculties are dedicated to coming up with answers, figuring out exactly what I'm going to say when the vultures finally get a hold of me. I need everything to hold up to even the strictest scrutiny, because they are going to go through everything I say with a fine-toothed comb. I know the type. Even the word choice has meaning. If they find something they don't think matches up, they'll pick and dig until they actually find something to talk about. Or they'll make something up. Stars know my position at this school is tenuous enough as it is. It turns out the head start I've got on the class rush was good for another reason. We barely make it all the way to the greenhouse and arboretum for herbology before the late bell rings. Our class is a beautiful glass building with steel bindings just outside the actual greenhouse. Desks and chairs are lined in 2 simple rows with a large desk and board at the front for the teacher. I've been looking forward to this class. This is the first chance I've ever had to actually train with the experts. Natural magic was the first thing to present in me. I wouldn't be here without it. Never would have thought to pursue magic. I feel significantly less anxious about the bundled pack of my own herbs I've brought for our teacher. This is a smaller class, so I don't mind being seen as too eager in here. Standing at the front of the room is our teacher. She doesn't have the stiff robes of an academic mage, nor does she dress in the vibrant colors Epis seems to favor. She's settled on a soft, sage-green tunic with worn boots, gloves in hand. This is someone who's just gotten out of the garden. I hope we'll get along. Her attention turns to me, and she speaks when I hold out my package for her. "Sir, what on this good land have you brought into this class?" I feel my ears burn hot, and I try to force a smile on my face. The teacher's eyes are fixed on me, as are every other student's. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea. "I'm sorry, Miss Hare, I'm too nervous to retract my offering, but I look it over quickly for anything that would offend her. It's a more nicely packaged version of what most mages request. I figured she'd like it. They never complain. I look down at my clothes. Nothing's gotten on them, as far as I can tell. I can't for the life of me figure out what she means. She picks up her clipboard testily and half-heartedly scans it. "Kara, I presume?" "Yes, Miss Hare. What exactly would—" "That is a distraction that I will not allow in my class." She's pointing demonstratively towards my right shoulder. I turn and realize that she's talking about Blue. I take a quick look at this small class. No one else here has a familiar next to them, and I can feel my face heat. So, no familiars are allowed in this classroom. I really don't want to drop this class, but he's required for other classes. "I'm sorry, ma'am, I didn't see that listed on the course sheet. I have other classes later today that require him." "You and half this school, but my classroom will be a distraction-free zone. We're already cutting into class time today with this nonsense. Tomorrow, you'll drop him off at the care center with all the others. Now, what's that you've got there?" "Oh," I fluster, remembering I had her gift in my hands. "Just something for you for the start of the new year." I hand it over, and though she does seem more than a little annoyed at Blue's continued existence, she accepts the gift. "That was very thoughtful, but don't think this means you're off the hook. Now get to your seat, and so help me, if I see as much as your hand straying, you can spend the rest of class time in the hallway." Suitably chastised, I keep my head down and walk to the last remaining desk. Blue settles close to my leg, and though a few people stare, we're left pretty much alone. I wish I could reassure Blue, but I keep both hands on the desk at all times. Apparently, Dueling Magics has a similar policy, and I'm advised to check Blue into the care center so that he will be out of the way during class. Walking into potions has me sighing in relief. People are finding their way around all the workstations, and almost all of them have familiars. Even the teacher seems to have his own, though it's being a little less than helpful. They're done up in tasteful dark robes with a pale yellow sash tied at the waist. It's hard to see anything else. They have an incredibly curly mop of black hair that covers most of their face, but that doesn't seem to stop them from navigating around the professor. Beetle-like wings are trying and failing to open, stuck in the outer layer of clothing. Practical, if this is a regular occurrence, and the annoyed yet resigned look on the professor's face seems to indicate that it is. "Tula, get back here. You can't run around in here. The next class is about to start." He grabs them around the waist and lifts their slim figure off the ground. They're too short and thin to weigh much, but their legs keep moving for a few minutes before they seem to realize they aren't making any progress. They're walked back to behind the desk and sat down on a rolling chair next to the demonstration cauldron with a firm order to sit. Remarkably, they stay, if only out of boredom. They continue to swivel their head as if they haven't heard a word. It's not till then that I see the antenna. They'd been moving too quickly for me to be able to pick out the delicate gray appendages from the matching hair. "Good morning, class. Welcome to Beginning Potions. I will be your teacher, Professor Rattan. Please pick a workstation. Each of you gets one, and it will be yours for the entire year." That sets people into motion. Suddenly, everyone is very fascinated with any minute difference in the perfectly identical cauldrons and packs of utensils. "Blue?" He jerks a bit before looking up at me. I feel bad. I should have been paying more attention, but in the rush of it all, I really haven't had much time for him. Not that the past 2 teachers would have allowed it. He seems to have drifted off into his own world. Yes, master? His voice is quiet, but a bit rough. I should get him some water soon. Stars, I can't be this neglectful. Blue, how about you pick out a place for us? He looks up at me, very subtly with the corners of his eyes. His terror is not so subtle. What? Master, what do you mean? He's whispering, but everyone's so consumed in their careful examinations, they're not even sparing us a glance. Blue, each one of these stations comes with exactly the same stuff. The only difference is where it is in the room. I want you to pick. We're going to be here in a lot for class, and I want you to feel comfortable. He takes sneaking glances around the room, twisting his hands together over and over. Maybe this wasn't such a brilliant idea. I was hoping he'd like the ability to choose at least something in this messed up day, but could it be too much? I didn't mean to push him like this. He's obviously nervous. I'm watching Blue more than I'm watching the people in the room, and I see his panic go on for a little bit longer. I don't want to take it back. I gave him a choice to make, and I want to follow through. But I can see him start to tremble, ears pressing hard against his head as his eyes flick faster all around the room. I'm about to intervene when he moves to the last available station by the windows and falls hard into a kneel. I hear the crack of his knees on the tile, and I have to hold in the urge to just drop down with him and make sure he's all right. He's not shaking, but he's holding himself too still. His eyes are unfocused and just staring straight ahead. I'd think he was bored if his ears weren't pulling as far down as they could go. I set my stuff down on his chosen station to claim it. The others are still milling about, picking which they like best. I've got a little time. Blue. He doesn't seem to react to me, but when I kneel down I can see that he's trembling again. He's starting to cry. Stars, I don't know what to do. I would take him in my arms if I thought he wouldn't scream on contact. I grab one of the new beakers off the workstand and fill it at the water basin, wetting my handkerchief along with it. It takes me more time than I'm comfortable with to come up with all the words I need for this situation. Blue, you're such a good boy, so obedient. You did such a good job. He's trembling just a bit more, and I bite the inside of my cheek and look around. No one's bothering to look in this direction yet. We haven't made a disturbance. Blue. I put down the beaker a little to his right, just within his view. Blue, I want you to pick this beaker up. His hands move slowly in jerky movements like he's trying to force himself. The shaking is more pronounced in his hands, but even so they wrap around the beaker with more care than is strictly necessary. I can hear his breathing now, ragged and strained. He's holding himself so still it's like a spring pulled taut. He's trying not to spill the water. Blue, you're doing very good. This is going to be simple. I need you to obey, that's all. I let the thoughts sink in for a few moments. I need him in this headspace. Small orders, simple commands, safe. Sit back on your heels. He falls into the position like a puppet whose strings have been cut. Raise your head. It's slower than I'd like, but it's what I've got, and nothing critical is coming out of my mouth right now. I take a moment to check him over. He's pale and panting, but he seems to be calming. He's going to be tired. It's hard to hold that strong of an emotional response for too long, though blind panic and fear seem to be the state that Blue lives in. His eyes are red and blotchy, and there are tear stains down his face, but he's not currently crying. I take it as a good sign. Stay. I try to say it less like a warning, more like a structural command. He's not in trouble. It would just do him good to stay in position. I sweep the wet corner of my handkerchief over his face, clearing up the tears first, but then just trying to find a soothing rhythm. I know I've found it when I hear him croon. The sound shuts off in an aborted grunt, and he chances a look up at my face. I try to keep it impassive. The trembling has stopped, and he's just listening. I didn't say you had to stay silent. If I need you quiet, I will tell you. I fold the handkerchief and put it away. You did very good just then. The last thing I need you to do is drink. You have all class. You don't need to finish the beaker. but I want you to have some, okay? Blue nods. He's not shaking anymore. His ears still show wariness, but they're tilted enough so that I can scratch underneath them and get a choked little laugh out of him. Everyone's settled, but before class can begin, the doors open again. It's well past the late bell, but everyone can see there will be no repercussions. Genevieve has walked into the class. My heart seizes in my chest. I didn't think we'd be meeting again so soon. The first time was a fluke, but I should have been prepared for this. Stars above, we are going to the same school. Of course we're going to see each other. She's done up in what I assume are the most fashionable robes, her familiar trailing behind her, carrying books and a satchel. She takes a brief look around the room, almost like she's challenging people to meet her eyes. There's a pause as her heeled slippers click on the wood. How nice of you to join us, Genevieve. Find a workstation and we'll start. There's an empty one in the back of class, right near the bookshelf. Every other one is occupied, but she looks around as though she's considering her options. She comes closer to me, and I see the singularly predatory glint of her eyes. She's recognized me. I'm screwed. Kara, was it? I don't like the way she's advancing on me, and it's a struggle to find a respectful stance. Yes? Excellent. Since we're such good friends, we can definitely switch, right? I really wanted to sit by the window. I don't want to say yes. It would get it over with, show her I'm not a threat, and go peacefully into the night. But Blue picked this spot, and nearly had a heart attack in doing so. I don't want to give it up for some cheap power trip or whatever this is. I barely have time to open my mouth before the teacher is on her, a bored tone cutting through the tension as though it wasn't there. Well, then, you should have gotten here on time. There's a desk open for you. There's silence in the room as these two size each other up. If anyone could talk back to someone like Genevieve, it would be a teacher. He seems adamant about this seating selection, and eventually Genevieve moves over to the empty desk with Blanc. I'm not an idiot. I don't think for one moment I've been saved. The teacher was the one who challenged the seating assignment, but I was the one who didn't immediately go along with it. I'm the nobody who showed resistance to one of the most elite families in the capital city. There will be consequences. The casual interest that people might have had in me is the least of my problems now. I think I've been screwed. There's a crash at the front of the class, and I look up to see Tula, feet in the air, knocking over different containers of fluids. We are told later, during class, that she's something called a question mark cockroach, as the professor shows off the beautiful, vibrant design on her wings. But she's no less stubborn than others of her breed. Though apparently she really likes potion components, and will sit watching them mix. It's a good distraction until the bell rings. We only have to survive lunch in the common area and deal with a few more classes. After that, there will be rest from this madness. We can go home. Blue passes his half-empty beaker to me as people are filing out. He offers a weak smile in thanks, and for a moment, everything has been worth it. I hope this can last.